Hi, this is Liz Temple, member of the implementation team for SmartOffice, and today I'm recording part 2 of my RMD video. I hadn't planned on doing a part 2, but I got several wonderful emails from people really liking the first video, but a couple of them mentioned that they had their data in Excel, and they wondered, was there any way that they could pull that data into SmartOffice, into the SmartPad, without having to go back in and just manually type it in for each client? And I said, yes, there is a way. So I'm going to show you how to do an import of a SmartPad spreadsheet data into SmartOffice from Excel. Now, this is what the spreadsheet looks like. We've got the name, the tax ID, the account name, the account number, the projected RMD, and this SWP information. I'm going to add 3 more columns. I'm going to add one that I'm just going to call my import info. Now, in the SmartPad, I want to take advantage of the keywords field that's in there so that my report in SmartOffice will find just these import notes. And then I'm also going to use the memo date. Now, before we go any further, there's a couple of things I want to cover. In order to do an import from an Excel spreadsheet to the SmartPad in SmartOffice, you have to have the contact record already in there. And the contact record has to have a Social Security number. Now, if you don't have Social Security numbers on some of your records, put in a fake one. I'll use like a 999-90-001 and then kind of move forward. That way, importing looks at the Social Security number as an identifier to make sure that there aren't going to be duplicates. In the case of the SmartPad import, it will fail. It will not take it without a a Social Security number. So make sure you have that. Also, my third column that I put in is the memo date. On the SmartPad in SmartOffice, there are 2 date fields. One is the created on date, and that is etched in stone. It looks at the date and the time of your computer when that note was created. There's also, however, especially in the master SmartPad, a memo date field, and that's more fluid. It's understood that there are times you might not get around to putting in some sort of note because you're busy doing other things. A good example would be, let's say that the advisor had a meeting with a client on February 15th, but today, February 28th, he just remembered that he didn't put his notes in. So he goes in and types the note. The created on field is going to show February 28th. He can, however, change the memo date field to February 15th to basically indicate that's when the conversation actually took place. So keep that in mind. All right, once we have our columns in there, now we're ready to start preparing the spreadsheet, which is always 99.9% of the import is making sure the spreadsheet is correct. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the keywords because I'm going to use the same keyword for all of my RMD entries, and that is RMD amount. And then I'm going to come down, I'm just going to copy it down to that row. The memo date, this line 2, we're going to say that this is his 2024 distribution. And we're going to say the second row is actually as 2023. Because the memo date is a complete date field, I have to have a month and a day and the year. So I'm just using the 1st of January for each of these, but these will be imported into the memo date field. The last thing I'm going to show you is what you have to do to make it work. I want to take column C, D, E, and F and combine that information into a single cell, which will be in my import file. And not only do I want to combine them, so it's just a single entry, I would like each row or each column, I should say, on its own line, but inside this one cell. So there'd be 403B Putnam, and then it will go down to underneath it, and then put in the account number, go down to the next line, put in the projected RMD amounts, and then the last line would be the SWP. So I'm going to write the formula. By the way, notice I have my wrap text turned on. You might want to make sure that that's in place as well. So the formula, which is very easy, it's a very easy formula. And for those of you that actually know Excel, and I certainly do not, I'm not very proficient at it, There are several ways you can usually write a formula to get it to work. But this is the one I found, this is the one I tried, and this one worked. And so I'm sticking to it. There. So it starts off with the equal sign. I want column C2, and you'll notice now column C2 has a block around it. And then we have more to add. So I'm going to put my ampersand sign. So I want C2 and. Now, remember I said I want each piece of information on its own line inside the cell? Well, now I'm going to write what they call a function, which is on a PC, it is char 10. And then I'm going to put an ampersand sign, another ampersand sign, because that's going to put in actually my line break. And then I'm going to put in, I want D2, and you'll notice that one now has a block around it, my ampersand sign, my char 10 ampersand sign, E2 ampersand sign. Almost kidding in arithmetic patterns. I'm almost singing that, aren't I? And a char 10 ampersand sign, F2. Okay, so I've got them all highlighted, and hopefully it's going to do what I asked it to do. I tried actually typing this formula without looking at it on my cheat sheet. So let's put it in there. Okay, we see 403B Putnam. Yay, I think this worked. Where's the rest of it? Well, it's simply a matter of that my field, my G2, isn't tall enough to display it all. So if you really want to see it, I'm going to come up to the format and I'm going to go to auto fit. And there it all is. Now, it still looks like the numbers and the comment section are split between more than one line, but not really. Again, it all is simply because in Excel right now, the display, see, if I do it that way, if I really get it all the way out there, you can see that it really is all on one line. So that's exactly what it will look like. Now, what's great is all you have to do is write this formula once, and then highlighting the field, even though you see the data, it's actually the formula. You do a Control-C for copy, and you come down to, in this case, I only have one more row. If you had an entire list of as many, I don't know, a couple hundred or 30 or 40 or whatever you have, you can highlight the whole thing, and then you just Control-C means copy. You just hit your Enter key, and it now took care of the rest of the rows, but it adapted to the row that it's on. And again, if you want to look at this whole thing, I'll just do that. And there it all is. And guess say I even need to make this a little bit wider, but everything's on a single line. We are now ready to import this in. By the way, just to let you know, when you write the formula, let's say that you didn't have the account number for the Prudential. The formula would not show the account number. If you, after you've written the formula, if you come back into the field account number and put in the account number, it will still populate over here because it's reading the field. And if there's nothing in there, it shows you nothing. If you put something in there, it'll pull it in here because we're actually looking at that field. Okay, so we're ready to import. Now, any spreadsheet to be imported into SmartOffice has to be as a CSV file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a file, save as, and I'm going to name this Tom Smith R&D information. And I'm going to come down to the next line. It has to be a CSV. I'm just going to, with my mouse already on that field, you can tell because it's outlined, I just hit the letter C. And for me, it takes me down to the CSV file I needed, or the extension. For those of you on a Mac, you may need to use a different CSV extension. I am not familiar, but just to let you know. So again, and if I didn't mention it already on the spreadsheet where I did a char 10, I'm pretty sure that is not the function that you use for a Mac. I think I saw somewhere it's like a char 13. But again, so if you're writing formulas on a Mac in Excel, make sure you look at your help system to find out, okay, I want to do this, and it'll tell you, okay, you're in a Mac, this is what you do. All right, so I'm going to save this. Oh, where do I want to put it? I have a desktop. I have a folder that just says EBIX folders. I'm going to save it there. All right, I can leave the Excel spreadsheet open. I can just jump straight down into a SmartOffice, and by the time that's done importing, it should, now this is the same information, different person, but it should look exactly like this in their record as well. So I'm going to go to Utilities. I'm going to go to Data Import Wizard. I erased all my RMD import templates, so we're going to create one from scratch. I'm going to call this my RMD import. And the type of import it is, see, we have quite a listing here. So I'm going to do the SmartPad import and just go to the next screen. Now I have to choose the file. And I'm going to do, here's the file that I'm going to use, the RMD SP import. Wait a minute, is that, no, that's not my CSV file. There it is. The RMD information right here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go open. It has loaded it. If by mistake you don't remember to save it to a CSV file and you try to attach just a regular Excel template, you'll get a pop-up saying, it has to be a CSV file. So just go back in, save it as a file, save as a CSV, and then you can come back here and choose the file. One other thing I'm going to do on this screen, which I normally don't do, is I'm going to remove this little indicator. See, this says fix all caps text during import. A lot of time we have spreadsheets where everything's in caps. The names, the addresses, the policy product names, all of that. And really, that's not very professional. That little box, if it's left selected, it'll put them in upper and lower case. But what I want is I want my RMD amount keyword to be all in caps. So I remove that. Then you go to the next field. They want to know which user account should be linked to the creation of these SmartPad notes. So I'm going to use me. And then on the next screen, we're going to just simply map the fields. In other words, we're going to tell SmartOffice where to put this information. We'll tell Excel where to put this information in SmartOffice. We don't have to do anything with the name for this import. It's one of the few that you don't have to have the name. So we're going to leave this blank. In column 2, you notice we have 3 rows of information here. Underneath column 2, the first row, that is what my spreadsheet says. And the second row here says, okay, in importing into this particular import SmartPad, there are 2 major areas of information that you can use. A contact record or a SmartPad. In other imports like policies, there's all kinds of fields you can use. But for this, it gives us 2 areas. And we're really not importing their tax ID, but SmartOffice says, hey, we have a field, tax ID / space, Social Security space, £, that's identical to your spreadsheet. So, hey, should we use that field? And the answer is yes. So I'm just going to leave it as automatically mapped. Really, it is more used about verifying that we have a record with this Social Security number. And so they know where to put it. Now, we are not importing the account name, the account number, or the projected RMD or the SWP. Why? Because we wanted it all in one field to import. So by ignoring these, by not putting anything in the bottom row of any of the name and these other 4 columns, SmartOffice will ignore it when it pulls the data in. Now, for the import information, there we need it. We're going to put it into the SmartPad. And then I'm going to down here, I'm going to say where in the SmartPad we want to put it in the notes. So my spreadsheet reads like this. SmartOffice does not have a field name that says import info. So we chose the group that had where we want this to be placed. And then within that group, we chose the area or the field that we wanted to be imported into. So that one's good to go. Now on this one, the keywords on my spreadsheet, in the SmartPad, we have a field name keyword. So it automatically mapped it to that particular field. So I don't have to map it. And the memo date, again, we're going to go to the SmartPad. We do have a field that says memo date, but in SmartOffice, it says memo date / time. The spreadsheet does not. So this is why we're going to map it. Personally, I would probably want to do the mapping myself rather than letting the SmartOffice auto map it. It's a great way to learn how to use import. So don't ever worry about changing your headings on a spreadsheet to try and be identical to what's in SmartOffice. Rather, let yourself learn how to use that second row that's in bold so you can find the group that you need to work in that might have the field you're looking for and then map into that field. So I'm just going to go ahead and say save and run import. Now, depending, of course, on the number of records that you have, how long this is going to take, this shouldn't take long at all, unless I did something wrong. 2 records processed, and we're done. Now, I'm starting my 18th year working in SmartOffice. I know what I did is right, but I know I'm also going to look to make sure. There's Tom Smith. Let's go up to his SmartPad. And there's his entries. So it came in clean on there. If I open up his record on the personal screen, that dynamic report populates identical to what Jenny Sweet Pickle. Now, if you're saying, hey, wait a minute, that's the same data. Well, right, yeah. The first time I did this for the first video, I used Jenny Sweet Pickle, but I used the same data on the spreadsheet. That's the only reason it's identical data. So that's how you can take an Excel spreadsheet and import multiple columns combined into a single cell with a break after each piece so it's on its own line, and you're good to go. If you have any questions about this particular video or any questions about importing into SmartOffice from Excel, or there's anything else on your mind that you'd like to see if you couldn't do in SmartOffice that you didn't know you couldn't do, let me know, and have a great day. And thank you for viewing this.